That's okay.
You can tell I'm not her child, I'm her grandchild. This is on behalf of my mother, Renee. She felt that I could get through it better. I'm not so sure after that movie. A message from Renee, Mary Hellen, Adams, Klingler. It would take me a lifetime to do justice to describing what a wonderful, loving, caring, prayerful, beautiful, inside and out person my mother was. She was a daughter, sister, wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, aunt, and cherished friend. My father described her as an angel, and I agree with that 100%. As you've heard already, she was the 6th child of 10 born in the Philippines. Her father passed away on her 7th birthday, and her mother was left with some small children to take care of. Mom and 2 of her younger sisters did end up spending many years in a convent raised by Irish nuns, both before and during World War II. They did endure hardship, fear, and hunger during the war years. They also experienced happy times, and my mother made lasting friendships, just like the one with Josephine O'Connor, or Auntie Jo as she is known to all of us, and we all love her dearly to this day. The American soldiers eventually liberated the convent in 1945, and my mother would be on her way to the U.S. Her original plan was to go live with her father's family in the Midwest, but she ended up coming to live in San Francisco by way of Long Beach. One of the other friends she made in the convent was Alice Campbell, who had been Mom's big sister in the convent. Alice was living in San Francisco, the widowed mother of 3 children by then, so my mother went to live with her and took care of Alice's children while she worked. One day, Valentine's Day in 1946, Jim Hampton, Uncle Jim, came over to Alice's home with Jimmy Boy and his Swiss friend to visit Alice. Well, guess who that was? None other than Andy Klingler, who would become Mary's husband, my dad, my grandfather. And to the end of her life, the love of my mother's life. Her one and only love. The rest is history. They dated for 4 years and married in July of 1950. They spent several months in Switzerland on a very long honeymoon, where Mom became pregnant and came home in time for Yvonne to be born on American soil. This was the start of her greatest role, being a mother. 2 years later, they moved to Southwood Drive, and over the following 10 years would have 3 more children, Andy Jr., Joey, and Renee. If you want to know the definition of a mother, just think of Mary Klingler. She was the most loving, caring, selfless, devoted woman. Her children, and later her grandchildren, were her life until the day she left this earth. She was completely devoted to our dad until the day he left us on December 31st, 2000, and completely in love with him until she left us. I didn't always appreciate the loving concern she felt for me, especially when I was a teenager. Like any typical kid of that age, I thought I should have some freedom to do things I wanted to do and go places I wanted to go. In the days before cell phones, as many of my friends could attest to, my mother could and would track me down just about anywhere and anytime. It was usually at a friend's home, but once at my orthodontist office. To this day, I don't know why she felt the need to reach me there. As I got older, got married, and moved out, she would call just about the time I was walking in the door after work to see how my day was or how I was. Even when we moved back into her house, she would call downstairs to see if we wanted to eat some of whatever delicious meals she cooked. She once tracked down Yvonne and family at a random restaurant in Santa Cruz. She would do the same to Andy at his home and Joe at work. Together we nicknamed her the Phantom Phone Caller. Until only a few years ago, she would call me at work just to say hi or to see if I was busy or to see if I was the person who just called her number and didn't leave a message. I think she used to call every person she knew to see if they were the one. I'm sure I often sounded impatient or annoyed when she would do that. Well, what I wouldn't give to get one of those phone calls now, just to hear her voice again, filled with concern and love for me. My mother was always happy, smiling, singing, humming, and cooking. She was always trying to feed you. Another of the nicknames she earned was Mammy June, because she was just like Leave It to Beaver's June Cleaver, only minus the pearls and the June dress. memory of the sound of her humming is something I will treasure forever. She did it all the time. Most of the time she didn't even realize she was doing it. She could play the violin and even a little harmonica. She loved singing and music. In more recent time, her daily routine included listening to her Dean Martin CD while she folded towels. She could remember most of the words. This was another thing that calmed and settled her. I think Joe and I have memorized the songs in the order in which they come up on the CD. And I will gladly listen to that music for the rest of my life. When she became a grandmother, she embraced that role with gusto. She took care of Laura, Stephen, and Chris at different times on a regular daily basis. Chris and Ryan grew up in her home. Michelle and Gina visited often and would often spend weekends over. She spoiled all the kids and would cook for them, offering a variety of selections, including their favorite, pancakes. She loved all the kids so much it was clear that this woman was born to be a mother and a grandmother. Although loved by all of her grandchildren, her 3 grandsons in particular would playfully argue and fight over who was grandma's favorite. My children have fond memories of spending days and evenings with Mom and Dad, going for rides, out to lunch, and walking in the Ceremony Mall. There were always special treats for the kids when out at the mall, just because. My mother also loved her sons-in-law, Danny and Gordon, and daughter-in-law, Anne, very much. She thought of them as her own children and embraced their families as well. Her grandchildren-in-laws, Gino and Jessica, were welcomed into her hearts, as were their families. She felt the same about Amy, Ryan's girlfriend. She cared for and loved them all. If her kids and grandchildren loved you, so did she. Her great-grandchildren, Sean, Andrew, Kaylee, Hugh, and Izzy, were cherished. I only wish they could have known the earlier version of her. They would have been spoiled and loved on too. My mother was a prayer warrior. She was always praying for everyone. If she knew you well, just met you, or if you were a friend or co-worker of one of her family, she prayed for you. If you were in this room, I'm sure you've been good and prayed for by now. I remember a phone conversation with Pat Hayes. We were talking about my mom, her mom, and Auntie Patsy, the big 3 of prayer. I think Mom and Auntie Tessie single-handedly prayed Yvonne and Dan into a marriage. We were saying, what are we going to do when they are all gone? Who will pray for us? Nobody prays for us like they do. Well, Auntie Tessie, you've got your work cut out for you, since you have to take on the extra load. I know I can also count on Dan, Yvonne, Laura, and Gino too. I think I'm going to need all of you here to take on some of those prayers too, because I need as many as I can get. Mom and I would say prayers together every night before she went to sleep. That was our special time together. It would center and calm her. We would recite the Our Father, the Hail Mary, and Glory Be. When she could no longer remember to say them, I would say them for her and to her. Mom was a devoted friend to many. When she was able, she would spend hours on the phone with Dorothy, Auntie Jo, Auntie Tessie, Mary McDaniel, and so many more. We've received so many cards and calls from friends who say she was the most wonderful, dear friend and person they've known. If I am half the mother, wife, and friend that she was, I will be blessed. I am so grateful that she belonged to us. There are so many people that went on the journey of Mom's illness with us. I would like to take a minute to thank some of them now. Thank you to all of my mother's dear friends who visited, prayed for, and inquired after her regularly. She loved you all. Thank you to all of the friends and coworkers of my brothers and sister who prayed for and sent well wishes for Mom. To my friends and coworkers whose support was invaluable, special thanks to Levy for always thinking of Mom, to Audette for all the conversations, the candles lit, and love for Mom, to Crystal for your support, advice, and for cooking that amazing meal for the entire family after Mom passed away, to the Halls for the delicious peach cobbler, to the entire staff of New Haven Home Health and Nursing for the excellent care, to hospice, especially Alicia and Jonathan for their care and compassion, to Gertrude and Mary Rose for their calming presence and loving care in the last days, to the Hampton, Quinn, and Long families for their love and prayers. Special thanks to Auntie Tessie for her visits and for having the ability to bring out the old Mary when she was around. We are forever grateful. This Christmas was one of her last days, her last good days. To Cantrez and Bree for the beautiful tribute to Mom Mom. We can't thank you enough, and we love you so much. Thank you to Laura, Gino, and family for their love, prayers, and FaceTime with Grandma. To Gina for her love of Grandma and for being there this last Christmas with her and today. To Anne for her concern, calls, and texts checking on Mom. To Michelle for her love, humor, phone calls, and visits with all of us. To Amy for the visits and concern for Grandma. To Steve, Jess, Andrew, and Amy for their love, hugs, and kisses, visits, and texts to check in on Mom. A special thanks to Andrew, just 4 years old, who stood by her bed and said a prayer over his great-grandmother just a week before she passed away. To Davy Boy for all the love, prayers, and support. To my brother Andy for his love for Mom, the heavy lifting, and for pulling us through some of the night prayers when the emotion was too high. To Yvonne for her love and prayers, for the Tuesdays helping Joe and the weekends helping all of us. To Ryan for his love and concern for Grandma, the giant hugs and kisses, and for always being there to make sure we had enough muscle. To Gordon, whose love and support I couldn't have made it through without. Thanks for bringing the special treats, holding my mother's hand, and for loving her like your own mother. To Chris for visiting Grandma every day, for being there when she and Joe needed you at a moment's notice, for your great strength, love, and calming presence. To Alma, Mom's caregiver, companion, and friend who took loving care of Mom for the last 2 years. Your quiet presence and knowledge about her treatment when her illness advanced were very comforting to us. We cannot thank you enough for your treatment of her. It meant so much to all of us. She loved you dearly. Finally, to my brother Joe for everything. I cannot begin to express all of our love and gratitude for your selfless love and care of Mom. You were definitely your mother's son. He once again put his life on hold, this time for much longer, even retiring from work to take care of our mother. You are an awesome son, brother, and uncle, and are truly loved and appreciated by all of us. My mother was the closest thing to a saint on earth. She was kind, compassionate, and never had a bad thing to say about anyone. She is an angel, and I know she is where she was. And I know she is where she was always meant to be, in the presence of our Lord, with her family and the love of her life, waiting for all the rest of us to arrive. She'll probably have something ready to eat when we get there. Mom, I'll love you forever and can't wait to see you and Dad again.